Hi there, everybody. Richard Fulmer here, and welcome to another one of my Richard's Rock Rambles, the channel that deals with all things rock. So, what I've been doing the past couple episodes is having a look at my top trios, my top three of any particular artist, be it solo or band. I have just done bands for the first couple. I'll get onto the solo artists a bit later. But today's band is probably my favorite band of all time. If you've been following the channel, you know who that is. Yes, Led Zeppelin. And I was thinking when I did the rankings of my top three, I thought, my number one is really going to raise a few eyebrows. But hey, it's my top three. You guys obviously going to have different top threes. Please let me know down below in the comments section. It'd be great to see what you consider to be your top three Zeppelins. I mean, they had such incredible albums. I mean, this was a band that was blessed with two guys who were session musos. Jimmy Page on guitar and John Paul Jones on keyboards and bass. So these guys had chops. They knew their stuff. And two relatively unknown guys, John Bonham, Bonzo, on drums, and Robert Plant on vocals, who both played in a band called the Band of Joy, which didn't really make big waves back then. But Jimmy Page obviously heard and saw something that he liked, got together with John Paul Jones, hooked up with Plant and Bonham, and the rest is history. The greatest band in rock as far as I'm concerned. They could do anything. First couple of albums are mostly blues-based rock with a heavy side to it. Some people say it's heavy metal. It's not heavy metal, it's hard rock. They may have sown the seeds for metal, but definitely wasn't metal. Blessed with a great vocalist. Robert Plant's vocals are just incredible, so powerful on that first album. But anyway, let's get into my top three and see how it goes. So coming in at number 3 is number 4. Led Zeppelin 4. Of course, this is the one with that song on it. And that song being Stairway to Heaven. And that's the track on here that I normally skip. Because as great as it is, and I mean, let's be honest, it's a great track with Jimmy Page doing some great guitar work, nice keyboard work from John Paul Jones. It's just being played to death. I mean, it's still a staple on US rock radio. In fact, all over the world. I mean, people with not much knowledge of Led Zeppelin know Stairway to Heaven. So it's actually the 1, 2, 3, fourth track on here. It starts off with Black Dog with Robert Plant. Hey, mama, just incredible. The drumming on here is superb. Obviously, John Bonham. Great riff to that track. Then you get Rock and Roll, which starts with Bonzo. And they usually started their concerts back in, this came out in 71. So around 71, 72, 73, they would normally start their concerts with that track, Rock and Roll. It's a classic for a reason. Then you get the Battle of Evermore, which features the sublime vocals of Sandy Denny from Fairport Convention. She had such a lovely voice. And it worked perfectly with that track with Robert Plant, the two of them, she singing the high parts and him singing the slightly lower. I mean, he could sing high, but there was just a nice combination. So she appears on that track. Then you get Stairway to Heaven, which I've mentioned. Misty Mountain Hop, also interesting track. Four Sticks, which are very sort of folky, almost an acoustic feel to it. Very different. The only thing that Zeppelin could do, or the only kind of track that they could pull off. And that's why I mentioned they could do anything. Going to California, which is kind of their homage to the States, and got that whole hippie vibe to it. And then lastly, When the Levee Breaks, with some incredible drum sounds. I don't know how they got that sound, but I think Andy Johns was the producer here, along with Jimmy Page, or he was the assistant producer. Andy Johns and Glyn Johns, big producers in the 70s. So this is the remastered 2014 release, which opens up like that. There's that famous, there goes one of the discs. That's actually the booklet. That was in the original vinyl in the middle. And if you open this up, there they go. Robert Plant over there, John Paul Jones, Jimmy Page with the beard, and there's Bonzo, the late John Bonham. And there's one of the small crowds they played to in those days. Just a couple of thousand people. And it comes with a booklet. Let me just retrieve that from the floor. There we go. So that's the famous man with his sticks. And that's what it was called. The Ruins album, I guess. There's some live shots of the band. Very early stuff, not the big stages yet, but they would get there. And there, how's that for a great shot? So that's my number 3, Led Zeppelin 4. Many people, I guess, would put that as number 1, but for me, there's a couple that just beat that. Coming in at number 2, the debut, Led Zeppelin 1. And I mean, come on, this is a classic. This is probably one of the best debut albums of all time. When the guys got into the studio, apparently, they just realized they had something so big and so great that they just started laughing at each other because they knew this is special. And it must be great when you have a band and you have that kind of vibe and you know we're going to go places. I mean, all the tracks on here for me are just stand out. Good times, bad times. You can't start an album off with a better track than that. Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You, the bluesy number. And Robert Plant's vocals on that track are just amazing. You can hear how powerful he was in those days. You Shook Me, another slow, brooding rocker. Dazed and Confused, the epic track on this album, which starts off with John Paul Jones on the bass, builds and it comes into the middle part, and then it just picks up speed, and John Bonham just smashes that kit. It's such a classic, Dazed and Confused, which when they played live would go on to like sometimes 20 minutes odd, would be Dazed and Confused. Back in the day when bands used to do things like that, have jam sessions, what the hell, when you paid your money, you got your money's worth. Then Your Time Is Gonna Come, and Black Mountain Side, which is a very sort of eastern feel to it. Played by Jimmy Page on a guitar called the Dan Electro, I think it was called. And a very mystical sound to it, very cool. And that would also be played live. Then probably my favorite track on your Communication Breakdown, with that excellent riff from Jimmy Page on his Les Paul. Although I think right in the beginning he was playing a Telecaster, I think. But definitely he was mainly known for the Les Paul. Another bluesy rocker, I Can't Quit You Babe, with Robert Plant's vocals soaring. The whole band here, the organ work from John Paul Jones as well is amazing. And then How Many More Times finishes off the album. I forgot to mention on the previous one, on 4, on the bonus disc, there's Black Dog, Rock and Roll, Battle of Evermore, Stairway to Heaven. Just different outtakes, different versions. Same here with this one, Good Times, Bad Times. Moby Dick's on here as well, which is the drum solo from John Bonham. How Many More Times, Dazed and Confused. So just different versions. And there they are. They're very young over there. Fresh-faced. There's some more photographs. Here we go. Back in the day, in 1969. What a year for rock. Right, number 1, as I said, this is probably going to raise a few eyebrows, but this album is just special to me. And for me, this is the Jimmy Page album. This has got guitar all over it. He rocks on this album. The one after this, the final studio album, In Through the Outdoor, would be John Paul Jones's album with a lot of synths. We're going into the 80s there. Lots of electric piano and all the rest of it. But this one, also done when the band were not in a good space. I mean, there had been a car accident with Robert Plant and he'd been injured. And while they were in the studio, he had a cast on his leg. Apparently, he got so carried away with the one track that he broke the cast and he busted his leg again. They had to reset it. It's what happens when you get into the vibe. So what am I waffling on about? Yes, Presence. As I say, must surprise too many, I guess. But there's the remastered. These are all remastered versions that I've been showing you. Sort of a different take on the picture there. I love this angry album. It's just in your face. It's a rock album. You play this at 10. You don't play this softly. Some lengthy tracks on here. In fact, the first track, which we'll get to in a minute, is almost like a prog song. It's got a lot of prog vibe to it. And there's those classic photographs on the inside. And there they are, all dressed up. John Bonham looking very strange. There's John Paul Jones with a double bass, and there's, I think that's Jimmy Page with a big Gibson hollow body, I think, and there's Robert Plant, and there they are letting rip on stage. So this came out, I think, 76, yeah. The drugs were starting to take over, and of course I said they had all these mishaps and what have you. Let's just go through see if there's anything else I can show you. There they are. Some great live shots on these reissues. There's Jimmy in his slightly dodgy sort of Nazi outfit, which he picked up a bit of flack for. How's that shot? Classic stuff. So let's get to the all-important tracks. Oh, and this is, of course, the object, which was the presence on the album. Right, the tracks, if I can get to them. Achilles' Last Stand, 10 minutes and 30 seconds of just brilliant, progressive hard rock. There's about 3 or 4 different parts to the song, and it sort of comes in very softly, the track, and then it just builds and builds and builds. Amazing stuff. It's probably one of my favorite tracks on the album. It just gives you every bit of Zeppelin, the light, the shade, the hard rocking, the more acoustic sound to it, had everything. For Your Life, another 6-minute track with some brilliant vocals from Robert Plant. His vocals on some of the tracks on here are a bit indistinct, but that doesn't bother me. I know that's been one of the criticisms of this album, people saying, can't understand a word he's saying, but hey, you know, who really knows all the lyrics to all rock songs? Make it up as you go along. Then we get into Royal Orleans. That's about the shortest track on here, 2 minutes 59. Nobody's Fault But Mine. That is a John Bonham masterclass. The drums sound incredible. I just wish most of modern day rock drummers would listen to that and go back to that sound. Pounding, excellent stuff. Just a great rocker, that. Candy Store Rock, Hot's on For Nowhere. And the final track, T for One, another one of those brilliant blues tracks from Led Zeppelin. Very much like the one on Led Zeppelin 3. I can't think of the name now. Anyway, T for One. It's been covered by Joe Bonamassa very well as well. And that rounds off the album. Disc 2, there's a few different versions as well. Royal Orleans, Hats on For Nowhere. And yeah. So there we go, folks. That is my number one, Presence from Led Zeppelin, 1976. I always call it the Angry Album. And there's the Presence in the middle of the table there with a kid, and very 50s looking shot, that. So yeah, it was kind of, there are some honorable mentions, which I must say, just outside of the top 3. Physical Graffiti would maybe get into the 3rd place, and Led Zeppelin 2. That's the other one. Very similar to the debut, just a hard rocking blues album. There we go, guys. Like I mentioned previously, I went down to a vinyl fair. It wasn't quite what I thought it would be. Not as many traders, so I didn't pick up much. In fact, I only got 2. But there will be a video where I'll highlight those 2 albums shortly. Otherwise, if you enjoyed the video, down below, give me a thumbs up. And please subscribe if you haven't. It does help the channel build up. Trying to get to 100 subscribers. Fame at last. So yeah, and any comments, let me know what your top 3 Led Zeppelins are. That'll be really great to hear. Look after yourselves, have a great week, and I'll catch you soon. Bye-bye.